I was getting ready to go to history class when Casey whispered to me, giggling, "Did you hear? Stefan's dad works with the CIA." Things were getting unbearable. Every day, a new rumor weirder than the last emerged. At first, Stefan said that he went to jail and that when he got out, his family couldn't live with the shame he brought them. So they sent him to a school far from them. And before that, he said that his family were secret assassins that no one knew about and that they came into the city on a secret mission. If it was so big of a secret, how come he told us about it? And now this. Stefan told me a lot about his parents once he started going to our school. And believe me when I say they were nothing like the things they were being said about them. It was the exact opposite of anything you might have in mind. The truth behind his family was shockingly hilarious to me. And the reason was unbelievable. Just like a bedtime story. Stefan and I hadn't been going out for even 2 weeks, and the rumors were already spreading around. We were both the talk of the month. Frankly, Stefan was a very handsome guy with an athletic body. I was the opposite. I looked like a 4th grade girl with my childish face and tiny figure. That's why we made an odd couple, but I couldn't have cared less about what others thought. What was important to me was that we were both happy. If I'm being honest, I didn't know if my relationship with Stefan would work. He still hadn't asked me officially out on a date. He was content in hanging around in school and during the break, and he was not the shy type either. Maybe I wasn't the kind of girl that makes the first move with guys, but I really wanted to go out with Stefan and get to know him better. So I collected myself and went toward him, then said, "So, Stefan, do you want to go out with me for some ice cream after school? It'll be on our way home." He answered, "I don't know. I don't think it's a good idea. Ice cream damages the teeth." This was the weirdest thing I had ever heard. He could have just said no with a better excuse. At first, I thought he was joking, so I laughed, but he looked way too serious. I tried to insist, but he told me that he had an important thing with his family during the day, so he couldn't make it. I left annoyed, but then Casey told me that Stefan wasn't from around here, that maybe where he was from, guys like to wait and take it easy with their relationships. But I thought differently. I thought Stefan wasn't interested in me as much as I was in him. What Casey told me made me think this through. I mean, if he wanted to break up with me, he simply would, right? Besides, I was also busy that day. Ever since my dad bought his toy store, I had been working there part-time until he could find someone good with children. I went home, changed, and then headed straight to the shop. You will not believe who I found there. Stefan was holding an older lady's hand and pointing at a toy on the shelf. This was the important thing he had to do and passed on going out with me for? Buying toys? He definitely didn't know that this was my father's store. I never mentioned it in front of him. "Stefan," I called him. He looked around and dropped the lady's hand hurriedly. "What are you doing here?" I didn't expect his response. He lied straight to my face. He said that he and his mom were buying some toys for his kid brother. He told me when we first got to know each other that he was an only child, that his parents had him after 13 years of being married, and they couldn't have another. Could that woman have been his girlfriend? Was he one of those weirdos who liked women who were as old as his own mom? He was holding her hand very fondly. If that wasn't the case, why did he freak out when he saw me? I kept thinking about this whole ordeal the entire day. I couldn't find an answer till I called Casey at night and asked her about it. She told me that his parents could have adopted someone. He never mentioned it to me, but he also never denied it. Once again, Casey succeeded in waving away my worries. She was really good at that. A long time passed without me broaching the subject. I thought that with time he'd explain what had happened, but he didn't. My friends and I decided to go camping after the school year was over, since none of us had any plans for the summer. Cool, right? The clear sky shone above us, and we circled around the fire, eating s'mores and telling ghost stories behind the lake. We were going to have so much fun together. All of us agreed to join except one. That's right, you knew it, Stefan. Stefan looked terrified as we talked about the bugs in the woods, and that it was essential to buy some spray. He didn't explain why he refused. Everybody felt that Stefan just didn't want to hang out with anyone. He pissed me off. I stood and told him, face erupting like a volcano. "What? We are not good enough for you to come hang out with us? Camping damages the teeth?" So Stefan, in order to calm me down, agreed to go with us. However, during the camping day, he texted me saying that he was sick and that he wouldn't make it. I tried calling him several times, but his phone was out of service. I felt really disappointed and worried about his health. Then I started getting suspicious of him again. I knew he was hiding something from me. Maybe he was going out with that lady from the store and thought with me out of the picture for several days, he could hang out with her easily. I would not be this stupid. I would not allow someone like Stefan to mess with me this way. I went directly to his house without telling him that I was coming. It was the first time I ever went inside his home. Usually we parted ways on his doorstep on our way home from school. With every step driving me closer to his door, my heart beat faster. My instinct told me that I was going to witness a disaster. But what I saw, I couldn't believe my eyes. Even the silliest bedtime stories couldn't have told what I saw. I rang the bell a few times, but no one answered. So I thought about leaving, but I didn't want to stay angry the whole trip. I started banging on the door harder and harder. I didn't mean to open it, it just did. "Stefan! Stefan!" I called, but no one answered. I went inside, and I heard calm music from deep within. Was it possible he was spending a romantic night with candles and music with that old hag? Don't be silly, I told myself. He won't cheat on me inside his own house. All along the way to the bedroom, I found toys tossed everywhere. When I entered the room, I saw a picture of me and my friends and Stefan hung on the wall. It was without a doubt his room. I saw a photo of a kid on the counter, and it looked just like Stefan. Could Stefan have had a son? No, that was impossible. Did he buy his toys from our store for his son? What a lying, deceiving... I was gonna get out of the room, but then I saw a crib. And what I saw inside the crib made me pee myself from laughter. It was Stefan. He was wearing a onesie, had a sucker in his mouth, and was looking at me completely shocked. I couldn't stop myself. I started laughing until I had tears in my eyes. I fell on the floor and held my stomach. What the heck was he doing? I could barely hear his voice calling me. He held me with both of his hands and started shaking me. "How did you get in here, you lunatic? And what's so funny?" he asked. I looked at him and said, "Don't you know how ridiculous you look? You have that in your mouth. What are those? Are you wearing diapers? What kind of joke is this?" I exploded once again. I stopped once I heard his mom saying, "My sweet cupcake, I'm back home. Come, let Mommy make you the best and sweetest hot chocolate in the entire world." I was so shocked, my mouth fell right open. A woman entered. She was the same one from the store. She was really his mom. Even though she saw me, that didn't stop her from talking to him like a baby. She went to his side, kissed him as she pinched his cheek, and said, "Who is the cutest baby in the entire world? Yes, you are. Oh, yes, you are. How's the kindest baby? How's my baby boy? Is it you, darling, my baby boy?" Was she crazy or something? Stefan asked me to wait for him in the guest room. And after a few minutes, he came out wearing normal clothes. He looked worried. Even I was worried. Him getting caught cheating on me would have been easier than this. I didn't know what kind of excuse he would tell me, but what I saw wasn't a dress-up party or a Halloween. It was literally his lifestyle. He held my hand as he told me everything. Stefan didn't want a normal life. He wanted to stay a kid forever. Maybe he wasn't like that in the beginning, but the way his family spoiled him and turned him into a lunatic, he wanted to live in Neverland, where children never grow up. But that wasn't possible. Time passes and we grow older. We can't stay children forever. Add to that, Stefan was ruining the best time of his life. He told me he didn't want anyone to know about this. At his previous school, he told a friend of his who ratted him out, and he ended up being the school's joke. So he changed schools, and now he's frightened that he'd have to move schools again because of me. He also told me that the reason he couldn't go camping with us was because he couldn't sleep away from his mom. What I thought was funny at first glance turned out to be completely sad. I don't think Stefan really comprehends what he's doing. He really just likes the attention, living like a child and playing with toys all day long. Stefan lived way too long being deprived of a normal life. so he can't possibly understand the fun behind dating and eating ice cream without any limits and camping in the woods. But at the end of the day, it is his lifestyle. Who am I to judge? Yes, I felt sad for missing out on a normal relationship with him. I really liked him. However, I promised him I'd keep his secret. When I was saying goodbye, he offered me a box of food as a little experiment on his way of living. And I gotta admit, it was 1,000 times better than adult food.
My boyfriend James came out of the kitchen holding a hot, steaming pie.
"Here, babe,"
he said.
"I made this especially for you."
I cringed inside. Not another pie to get through. You see, my boyfriend James had this weird obsession with making pies, and I had to pretend they were good when actually they tasted disgusting. "Oh, great," I said with fake enthusiasm. I bit into the pie, but this one tasted even worse than usual. I'd never tasted anything so bad in all my life. I didn't know how I was going to finish it. I was on my second bite of the pie when the pain in my stomach started. I was bent over double. The pain was unbearable. I looked at James and cried, "Help me, James!" But James just stood there watching as I collapsed on the floor. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, or you might end up having to eat one of James's disgusting pies. I woke up and couldn't understand where I was. I could hear people talking and could make out what looked like a nurse standing beside me. "Where am I?" I asked. "It's okay, darling. You're going to be fine," a voice said. I looked around and saw Mom and Dad standing there. "What happened?" I asked. Mom and Dad told me that they had tried to call me, but I hadn't answered my phone. After a while, they began to get worried, so they went over to my apartment. They had found me lying on the floor unconscious. "Was James with me?" I asked.
"No, James was nowhere to be seen,"
said Dad.
"In fact, we haven't seen him for days."
The doctors came in and told me that the pie I had eaten had got some poison in it. "What?" I said. "That's crazy! How could there be poison in it? My boyfriend James made that pie for me." The doctor looked strangely at my parents. "I'm gonna call James now," I said. "There will be a good explanation, I'm sure." I called James, but no one answered. That's strange, I thought. Why would James just abandon me? "I'll call him again later," I said to Mom and Dad. "He's probably just busy at work now." "Okay," said Mom. "We'll let you get some sleep now." Mom and Dad left the hospital, and I tried to get to sleep, but I just lay there tossing and turning. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. Suddenly, I heard someone moving in my room. I could make out the shadow of someone crawling across the floor. As the light from the window shone on him, I saw it was James. "James," I said, "is that you?"
"How can you still be alive?"
he said.
"That poison should have killed you."
"What are you talking about? Did you try to poison me on purpose?"
"Yes, I did."
"Why would you do that to me? I thought you loved me." His face contorted with rage. I had never seen James look that way before.
"I did it because you ruined my life,"
he said. "What?" I cried. Suddenly, James lunged at me as if he was about to kill me. I didn't know what to do. I looked around and saw the call button beside my bed. I reached out and pressed it. A few seconds later, the doctors came running into my room. They grabbed hold of James and pulled him off of me. They pushed James into the bathroom and locked the door. "Wait here," said one of the doctors. "I'm going to call the police." When the police arrived, the doctors told them what James had done. They arrested him and took him to the police station. A few minutes later, Mom and Dad came running into my room. "The doctor called us and told us to come back," said Dad. "What happened?" "James was here," I said, sobbing. "He tried to kill me." "Don't worry, you're safe now," said Dad. "The police have got him and he's locked up." Then the door opened and the doctor came in looking worried. "The police have just called to warn you," he said. On the way to the police station, James jumped out of the car and escaped. I looked at my parents. I was so scared. "Don't worry, darling," said Dad. "We'll protect you." The following day, I was able to leave the hospital. Mom and Dad drove me to my apartment. "You just stay away from James now," said Dad. "We'll be back first thing in the morning," said Mom. "But if you need anything tonight, just call us." "I will," I said. The first few weeks after I got out of the hospital, I was a nervous wreck. Every little noise I heard, I was convinced it was James coming to try to kill me again. I didn't want to leave my apartment in case I bumped into him. The only thing I went out for was to get shopping from the supermarket, and even that was a traumatic experience. I was in the fruit and vegetable aisle when I suddenly froze. There, standing in front of me, was James. I didn't know what to do, so I panicked. I tried to get out of there, but the exit was right in front of James. I tried to run past him, and as I did, I pulled out my pepper spray and sprayed him full in the face. But as he turned to me in shock, I realized that it wasn't James after all. It was just some innocent guy doing his shopping. The store supervisor came running over to us. "What's going on?" he asked. "She just sprayed me with pepper spray for no reason," the man cried out in pain. "Why did you do that?" he asked me. I told him all about how James had tried to kill me. "He looked exactly like James from behind," I said. "I'm so sorry for spraying you. I was just scared for my life." Luckily for me, the man was a kind man, and he felt sorry for me. "It's okay, I won't press any charges," he told the supervisor. "Just don't spray me if you ever see me again, okay?" "I won't, I promise," I told him. I can't keep on living like this, I thought. That evening, I was sitting on the couch trying to watch TV, but I couldn't stop thinking about James. Our relationship had been so good. We never argued. Everyone said we were perfect for each other. I couldn't believe he would throw it all away. I couldn't understand what had gone wrong. That's when I made up my mind. I was going to go and confront him. I was scared to be near him again, but I needed to find out why he wanted me dead. The problem was I had no idea where he was. The police had told me they had searched his house and been to where he worked, but he was nowhere to be seen. Where could he be? That's when I remembered the little cottage in the woods. We used to go there in the summer. I wonder if he would be hiding there, I thought. I decided I would go and see. I was nervous as I walked through the woods towards the cottage. It was dark and I could hardly see in front of me. Something moved in the trees, but it was just a bird. As I approached the cottage, I could see a light on in the window. Someone was definitely there. I was sure it had to be James. I opened the door and crept inside. As I went through the kitchen, I grabbed hold of a saucepan. If James lunges at me again, then I'm going to hit him over the head with his pan, I thought. James was sitting in the chair watching TV. When he noticed me, he jumped up. "James, I just want to talk to you," I blurted out quickly. "I just want to know why you tried to kill me." James hesitated, but then he finally spoke up.
"Because I hate you. You stole everything I owned and ruined my life," he screamed.
"What are you talking about?" I asked. "I've never stolen anything from you. In fact, I've never stolen anything from anyone."
"Yes, you did,"
he went on.
"And I've got the evidence."
"What evidence?"
"I've got CCTV footage of you breaking into my house."
He pulled out his phone and showed me a video. On the video was a girl that looked just like me. She was taking everything out of his house and putting it into a van. "It's true, it looks like me," I said in shock. "But I promise you, I didn't do that. You have to believe me."
"Well, if it wasn't you, who was it then?"
"I've no idea, but let's show the video to my parents. Maybe they will be able to help."
"I know you're just trying to get me arrested again,"
said James suspiciously.
"The police will probably be waiting for me when I get there."
"I swear I won't let them tell the police," I said. "I love you, James. I don't want anything to happen to you." Finally, James agreed to go to my parents' house. When we got there, Mom and Dad looked shocked to see me with James.
"What's he doing here?"
asked Dad.
"I thought we told you to stay away from him."
"It's okay. He's not going to hurt me," I said. "We just want you to take a look at a video that James has." We showed my parents the video on his phone. When the video finished, my mom and Dad looked at each other strangely. "I think we might know who that is," said Mom.
"That's Kara,"
said Dad. "Who is Kara?" I asked.
"You'd better sit down and we will explain everything," said Dad. "We're about to tell you something we should have told you a long time ago."
My parents explained to me that when I was born, Mom had actually had twins. They didn't know Mom was expecting twins, so it was a bit of a shock.
"We didn't have enough money to look after 2 children,"
said Dad.
"So we put Kara up for adoption."
"The last we heard, she had been adopted, but we didn't know where she was living," said Mom. I was so shocked. I looked at James to see what he was thinking.
"Oh, babe, I'm so sorry,"
he said.
"I can't believe I ever doubted you. I should have known you would never steal anything from me. How can you ever forgive me?"
I didn't know what to think about James, but I knew one thing for certain. I needed to find my twin sister. I looked at Mom and Dad. "We need to find Kara and find out why she is robbing people's houses," I said. My parents called the agency that had organized the adoption and told them that they needed the address where Kara was living. At first they were reluctant to give it, but after Dad told them it was a life or death situation, they finally gave him the address. The 4 of us got into Dad's car and drove straight there. As I looked around me, I couldn't believe where my twin was living. It was a dead-end neighborhood. Only the poorest people lived there. Homeless people were sleeping in shop doorways. Eventually, we pulled up in front of a filthy, dilapidated house. Mom, Dad, and James went ahead of me and knocked on the door. The door opened and 𝗘𝗦𝗖𝗓 stood there looking out. "Who are you? What do you want?" she shouted. "Get out of here or I'll beat you up." I stepped out from behind my parents. 𝗘𝗦𝗖𝗓 looked at me and gasped. She looked shocked to be looking at her identical self. As I stepped towards her, she suddenly fainted and fell on the floor. We didn't know what to do. My twin sister was lying on the ground. It was surreal for me to see an exact copy of myself there. Dad picked her up and carried her into the house. He laid her down on the couch and I started fanning her face. Slowly, she began to open her eyes. She looked at me. "I don't understand," she said. "Who are you?" I explained to her that I was her twin sister, that she had been adopted as a baby. "We didn't know you were living in such terrible conditions," said Mom. "But why did you come looking for me?" asked 𝗘𝗦𝗖𝗓. I looked at James. Would he tell her that she had stolen from him? James smiled at me. "It's okay," he said. "I think this might have been just a silly mistake. I'm just happy you two have found each other now." Well, if he can forgive 𝗘𝗦𝗖𝗓 for stealing from him, the least I can do is forgive him for trying to poison me, I thought. "I think you're right, James," I said. "It's all just been a silly mistake." I turned to my parents. "What's going to happen to 𝗘𝗦𝗓 now?" I asked. "Don't worry, 𝗘𝗦𝗓," said Mom. "You're not going to live here a moment longer. You are coming home with your real family." It didn't take long to arrange for 𝗘𝗦𝗓 to come and live with us. Once Dad had notified the Child Protection Services about 𝗘𝗦𝗓's living conditions, they soon agreed to let her leave her adopted family. Who would have thought that eating one slice of pie could change my life so dramatically?